trying to figure out how to put this morning. Oh my god. All right. I'm gonna start. You're gonna have to forgive me. I'm gonna start with the song. This is a joke, so just keep that in mind. When I die and they lay me to rest, I'm gonna go to a place that's the best. When I lay me down to die, I'm going up to the spirit in the sky. Going up to the spirit in the sky. That's where I'm gonna go when I die. When I die and they lay me to rest, I'm gonna go to the place that's the best. Wow, wow, wow. Okay, all right. Anyway, mastery through love. Mastery through love. We're going to read a passage here from chapter 2, section 7, called Cause and Effect, right? And this is another golden moment in A Course in Miracles, the mastery through love. All right. Let's just read the quote in question, and then we'll come back to it. It has already been said that you believe you cannot control fear because you yourself made it, and your belief in it seems to render it out of your control. Yet, any attempt to resolve the error through attempting the mastery of fear is useless. In fact, it asserts the power of fear by the very assumption that it need be mastered. The true resolution rests entirely on mastery through love. In the interim, however, the sense of conflict is inevitable, since you have placed yourself in a position where you believe in the power of what does not exist. All right, so we're gonna read. Let's just talk about that, just in case you only have a few minutes and you just want to hear. All right. So fear represents really the ego, right? Jesus keeps telling us throughout the Course, we don't. This is a journey out of fear. We took this detour into fear, which really is the ego, right? The ego is that part of our mind that believes in separation, that believes that separation is real. And we have made the ego very real in our mind. We have made this belief in separation very real. And it's not so easy for us just to, dissolve the ego. That's why this Course tends to be a process for most people. In another sense, it's the easiest thing in the world because we are not our ego, and our true self is our natural self, right? It's natural to us. So, and that's why, for example, when people fall in love, it happens just like that, right? And they're back in their true self again. All of a sudden, it just happens just like that. Because that is their true self, right? And all the other stuff was not real to begin with. But if you try to control the ego, if you try to get rid of the ego, destroy the ego, fight the ego, it does not work. That's one of the main points of the Course, is just does not work, right? Because what you do when you do that, you make the ego more real. You make fear more real, and it's not real. It's nothing. It has no existence. But so when you fight against it, when you fight the dragon in your mind, you just make the dragon that much more powerful. The monster is that much more powerful. So what you really want to do is let go of what was never real to begin with, right? And make way for love. And that's mastery through love, right? Where you don't fight against the fear. You um, just know that the fear is not real. The ego is not real. You just observe it, calmly observe it, and it will dissolve by itself. You don't have to do much else. It just will go away because you're not giving it power. You're not giving it energy. All right. So if you only had 5 minutes, there you go. Let's read through this kind of quickly and then see if there's anything more to talk about. Just keep in mind that every page of the course, maybe even every paragraph, has the whole thing right there, right? It's all, whether you're open to seeing it that way, that the course is holographic, the course is saying the same thing over and over and over and over again. It's not as complicated as it seems on the surface. It's actually very simple. It's a very simple message that keeps getting repeated over and over again. Cause and effect. Paragraph 1, you may still complain about fear, but you nevertheless persist in making yourself fearful. I've already indicated that you cannot ask me to release you from fear. I know it does not exist, but you do not. If I intervene between your thoughts and the results, I would be tampering with the basic law of cause and effect, the most fundamental law there is. I would hardly help you if I depreciated the power of your own thinking. This would be in direct opposition to the purpose of this course. It is much more helpful to remind you that you do not guard your thoughts carefully enough. You may feel that at this point it would take a miracle to enable you to do this, which is perfectly true. You are not used to miracle-minded thinking, but you can be trained to think that way. All miracle workers need that kind of training. Remember that this was originally for Helen, and Bill. Right? This is a message directly from Jesus to Helen. So that message was Jesus really talking to Helen directly at first. Paragraph 2, I cannot let you leave your mind unguarded, or you will not be able to help me. Miracle working entails a full realization of the power of thought in order to avoid miscreation. Otherwise, a miracle will be necessary to set the mind itself straight, a circular process that would not foster the time collapse for which the miracle was intended. The miracle worker must have genuine respect for the true cause and effect as a necessary condition for the miracle to occur. In other words, Jesus is encouraging Helen to watch her mind, to guard her thoughts, to be vigilant, right? Against the ego, not to fight the ego, but to observe the workings of the ego and not give them power. And that is a practice. That is not something that we are have much experience with until someone points it out to us, to start to watch our thoughts and watch when these egoic thoughts creep in, and then we just nip them in the bud. We say, not giving power to that thought. I'm not giving power, energy to that thought at all, right? Because that's not true. Both miracles and fear come from thoughts. If you were not free to choose one, you would also not be free to choose the other. By choosing the miracle, you have rejected fear, if only temporarily. You have been fearful of everyone and everything. You are afraid of God, of me, and of yourself. Again, Jesus talking to Helen, especially. You have misperceived or miscreated us and believe in what you have made. You would not have done this if you were not afraid of your own thoughts. The fearful must miscreate because they misperceive creation. When you miscreate, you are in pain. The cause and effect principle now becomes a real expediter, though only temporarily. Actually, cause, quote unquote cause, is a term properly belonging to God, and his effect, quote unquote effect, is his son. This entails a set of cause and effect relationships totally different from those you introduce into miscreation. The fundamental conflict in this world, then, is between creation and miscreation. All fear is implicit in the second, and all love in the first. The conflict is therefore one between love and fear. So, so Jesus, very early in the course, is setting this up. This is a conflict between love and fear, between creation and miscreation. Jesus is laying this out very philosophically. Apparently, Helen was very logical minded, and she wanted her course, wanted the course to be logical and rational, and so Jesus was obliging, right? He was coming through with a very logical, rational presentation. Paragraph 4, which we already read. It has already been said that you believe you cannot control fear because you yourself made it, and your belief in it seems to render it out of your control. Yet any attempt to resolve the error through attempting the mastery of fear is useless. In fact, it asserts the power of fear by the very assumption that it need be mastered. The true resolution rests entirely on mastery through love. In the interim, however, the sense of conflict is inevitable, since you have placed yourself in a position where you believe in the power of what does not exist. Okay. We believe in what we have made. We believe in fear, which we made. Right? God did not make fear. God is only love. God cannot make fear. God cannot make separation. It's impossible. But we made it, and we believe in it because we made it. And we think that we are our own authors. We think that we have authored ourselves. We don't. God is out of the picture as far as the ego is concerned. The ego does not know God. As long as we're in our ego, we also have pushed God out of the picture, and we think that we have created ourselves. We do not believe in a loving self that created us, right? We don't believe in a loving God or a loving source because we're making it. We are denying it by following the ego. So we can't master fear, master the ego, and get back to love, because that is to make it real, and it's not real. This is what I said before, right? It's not real. So to give it any energy whatsoever is to continue to reinforce that belief that it is real. Paragraph 5, nothing and everything cannot coexist. To believe in one is to deny the other. Fear is really nothing and love is everything. This is another great quote to remember always. Fear is nothing, love is everything. Whenever light enters darkness, the darkness is abolished. What you believe is true for you. In this sense, the separation has occurred, and to deny it is merely to use denial inappropriately. However, to concentrate on error is only a further error. The initial corrective procedure is to recognize temporarily that there is a problem, but only as an indication that immediate correction is needed. This establishes a state of mind in which the atonement can be accepted without delay. It should be emphasized, however, that ultimately no compromise is possible between everything and nothing. Time is essentially a device by which all compromise in this respect can be given up. It only seems to be abolished by degrees because time itself involves intervals that do not exist. Miscreation made this necessary as a corrective device. The statement, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life," needs only one slight correction to be meaningful in this context. He gave it to his only begotten Son. So this is a from the Gospel of John, right? It's a famous verse. So God so loved the world that he gave it to his only begotten Son, that whoever. Now, what is the world? God so loved the real world, right? I think Jesus is going to explain that now. God gave the real world to his Son, did not give the world, because God does not know of the world. God did not make the world. The ego made the world. the ego mind, the tiny mad idea of separation, led to the making of this world of separation. God did not make that. God gave us the real world, which is the world where there's only love. Paragraph 6. It should especially be noted that God has only one son. If all his creation are his sons, everyone must be an integral part of the whole sonship. The sonship in its oneness transcends the sum of its parts. However, this is obscured as long as any of its parts is missing. That is why the conflict cannot ultimately be resolved until all the parts of the sonship have returned. Only then can the meaning of wholeness in the true sense be understood. Any part of the sonship can believe in error or incompleteness if he so chooses. However, if he does so, he is believing in the existence of nothingness. The correction of this error is the atonement. Now, and remember that Jesus says elsewhere, the sole responsibility of the miracle worker is to accept the atonement for oneself, which means in this, from what Jesus is saying is, he's talking directly to Helen, is as long as your mind has any incorrect thoughts, right? As long as your mind is making separation real at all in any regard, you are blocking your own way. You cannot return to love again until you have gotten to the place of complete forgiveness in your mind, where you hold you are in a place of complete acceptance of the atonement principle, which is that God is only love and God has never changed and love is our only reality. Then you have made way for that experience to come again, right? To remember the truth of what you are. Last paragraph here. I have already briefly spoken about readiness, but some additional points might be helpful here. Readiness is only the prerequisite for accomplishment. The two should not be confused. As soon as a state of readiness occurs, there is usually some degree of desire to accomplish, but it is by no means necessarily undivided. The state does not imply more than a potential for a change of mind. Confidence cannot develop fully until mastery has been accomplished. We have already attempted to correct the fundamental error that fear can be mastered and have emphasized that the only real mastery is through love. Readiness is only the beginning of confidence. You may think this implies that an enormous amount of time is necessary between readiness and mastery, but let me remind you that time and space are under my control. So, in other words, what Jesus is saying there at the end is, this is just the beginning, right? We're just at the beginning, but don't think that this is going to take a whole long time, because at any point, your readiness, your willingness can shift into that knowing, that experience once again, right? Jesus can, through seeing that you are ready, help you to go much further, because of your readiness and because of your willingness and your openness. So don't ever think this is going to take a very, very long time, lifetimes. I'm not gonna get this for lifetimes, right? No, it could be very quick. It could happen in a moment, right? And at the same time, most people that do the course, they're just at the beginning, right? Even Jesus says at the end of the course, this is a beginning, not an end, right? This is the start. You've done this for a year. Well, keep going, because the work continues. Which is not to say that you cannot touch what it is. You can and you will have glimpses. You will have moments of profound experience where you experience the holy instant, and where you come back You touch it, you come back, you still are in your ego somewhat, but you know that it's real. You know what Jesus is talking about is real because you've experienced it. So anyway, I hope this is helpful a little bit. Um, the course is even though it's simple, it does take really some study, right? Some concentrated effort. So we're going to be doing the course starting January 1st. Start the whole course for a whole year. One lesson and one reading a day. And just everyone is welcome to join and go through the whole course together. All right, see you soon. Um, see you on the brother side very soon. Adios.